Particularly after this report's come out, we would encourage the governor to veto that bill, go back to the table, look at this report. That they should have waited until they saw this report in the first case.
It's Mark Denzler, Manufacturers Association President and CEO here in Illinois, talking about energy legislation that the legislature passed during fall veto session. And the governor's expected to sign, but it's ultimately going to be more focus on so-called renewable energy instead of focusing on baseload generation through things like coal or natural gas. And warnings that it's going to increase the cost to you, the utility consumer. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop on this Wednesday. I appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to go to the website, thecentersquare.com, where you can sign up for the headlines, get the newsletter, and you can see this headline: Manufacturers Group urges Pritzker to veto Illinois energy legislation. So this legislation passed during veto session, Senate Bill 25, and was approved in the final days. It's one of the final pieces of legislation on the governor's desk. Now, after it passed, the governor put out a statement saying that Illinois is taking action to address concerns and pass the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act, an important step that will help lower utility bills and make our electrical grid stronger. The bill will build upon Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, positioning Illinois to keep growing our clean energy economy and creating good-paying jobs in communities across the state. The governor said the measure accelerates clean energy projects with grid-scale batteries and other clean energy technology, and requires utility companies to help consumers lower utility bills with access to energy-efficient resources. Now, opponents say that the bill is going to increase costs, and some said it is $7 billion or $8 billion over several years that utility payers are going to have to pay more in their rate. And that's a lot more tacked on to already increasing prices. So the measure passed and the governor's expected to sign it. But since all of that, the Illinois Power Agency, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, and the Illinois Commerce Commission, they put out a 2025 resource adequacy study. And we'll pull this up for you, and you can follow along if you're watching. Again, some people listen to the podcast, but just a reminder, we do have a video podcast that is really what the start is here. So be sure to tune in with us each and every weekday morning. But here's the 2025 adequacy study. It's 222 pages long, and it goes through a whole host of things, including details about the availability of energy and what it's going to mean for the state if we continue forward on the trajectory that we're on. So, again, you can read that report for yourself. But it was submitted to the General Assembly Monday, and it says that both PJM and MISO, which are multi-state electric grid operators impacting Illinois, they're expected to face capacity shortfalls over the coming decade unless additional new capacity and resources are developed. They say when accounting for those supply and demand dynamics, including announcing retirements of generators in Illinois and within each RTO market, and accredited new builds currently in the queue or fast-tracked through PJM RRI and MISO ERAS programs, PJM is expected to experience a capacity shortfall beginning in 2029, with the deficit projected to be wider in subsequent years if left unabated. And again, I want to highlight here, including announced retirements by generators in Illinois. And this is the law that was passed several years ago that ultimately slates the closure of coal-fired power plants by 2035, and then municipally owned coal-fired power plants by 2045, and natural gas plants are supposed to be essentially net zero by 2045. So the decarbonization efforts in Illinois. The Illinois Manufacturers Association saying that they need to essentially reverse course on this. Here's Illinois Manufacturers Association President Mark Denzler talking about the Illinois Power Authority's report that came out and the urgency that he says legislators and regulators need to realize.
Sure. Well, good morning. Thank you, Greg. The Illinois Power Agency, the Illinois EPA, and the Illinois Commerce Commission released their adequacy report, which Greg, we didn't need a 200-plus page report to tell us what we already need. The fact is, Illinois is in crisis when it comes to energy, as are many states around the country. And quite frankly, what the report says, what we already knew and what the IMAs testified to, is that The demand doesn't meet the generation. It's simply supply and demand. And as we've seen growth from manufacturing and quantum and data centers, at the same time that state policies are resulting in the closure of baseload energy, coal, gas, and even nuclear across the country, it's simply a supply and demand issue. And this report says that Illinois is going to struggle, and there's going to be a date in the near future where we may not have enough power to meet the demand we need.
So Denzler talking about the bill and it not really addressing the base load generation. He went on to talk about the cost and what this means for energy payers, including manufacturers. How much is this going to impact operations and the state's economy?
It's going to mean higher costs on your electric bill. And Greg, this is a red flashing alert warning sign. We had hoped that the governor and lawmakers would have considered previous alerts, which are the capacity auctions in PJM and MISO, the two regional grids. We've seen that cost skyrocket from $69 a megawatt hour to over $329 a megawatt hour. Consumers, whether you're a business or you're that family, saw price spikes, this summer, significant price spikes. I think in ComEd territory, it was $15 to $20 a month. It was like $35, $40 in the Ameren or downstate territory. Manufacturers paid tens, hundreds, and even millions of dollars more in increased costs. So we've already seen two capacity auctions result in warning signs, and now this report's telling us the same thing.
So you've got the Illinois Manufacturers Association raising yet again another red flag, another sounding of the alarm. Denzler went on to talk about the closure dates for these coal-fired power plants and these natural gas-powered plants. He says that they need to repeal that law to essentially allow for these coal-fired power plants and natural gas plants to continue operating in the state of Illinois, especially with all the demand of AI and data storage and quantum computing.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, we really hoped that lawmakers would wait to pass an energy bill until actually this resource adequacy study came out. It would have made more sense to look at this and then enact the policy. What the IMA has called for, what we called for in the last couple of years, keep the current generational plants going, the clean coal plants and the gas plants, make sure they continue operating. Secondly, we have to invest in new generation. And we were happy that the nuclear moratorium was removed. That's going to take a few years. We need to add gas plants. Renewables are an important part of the mix, but it's an all the above strategy. We also have to invest in transmission lines and technologies like carbon capture and battery storage, so long as they're done in an affordable manner. But again, if the governor and lawmakers didn't hear the warning signs about capacity auctions, they clearly need to read this 200-page report. And again, I think a good first step, sending a message to the market, is keep those current plants.
So that message to the market to keep the current plants online, Denzler saying that's important because the investment that's needed to keep those plants operating, they have to make investment decisions years in advance. And if they see that a deadline that they're going to have to close is coming up, they might as well just retire early and stop wasting the money on that investment in Illinois, meaning those dollars could likely go to other areas. And Denzler recognizing that.
Well, from the manufacturing sector, we use 1/3 of all energy consumed in the United States. And so as companies are making decisions about whether to invest in Illinois, to expand in Illinois, or potentially move outside of Illinois, energy is top of mind when it comes to manufacturing, along with workforce and how quickly we can get a shovel in the ground. And so if we can send that message to companies that we're going to have a good supply of energy here, and we need safe, we need affordable, and we need a lot reliable energy. And so we have these plants currently operating. If we can send that message not only to companies looking to invest here, but to our families, but also to the markets, to PJM and MISO, to let them know, and hopefully that will help with capacity auctions.
Now, the measure that's on the governor's desk with this new energy policy that Republicans and business groups say is not the right direction because it's going to increase utility customers' rates to subsidize battery storage. That's something that Denzler says is not going to provide the capacity that's needed. And even the new study that came out Monday about the shortages changes that are likely if the state doesn't change its current landscape, the battery storage isn't going to be enough. It's the subsidies that the bill has aren't going to do it.
Particularly after
So
this
here's Denzler talking about how the governor needs to veto this legislation and get back to the drawing board.
Particularly after this report's come out, we would encourage the governor to veto that bill, go back to the table, look at this report that, they should have waited until they saw this report in the first case and see what this said. And it clearly says you need to keep your current resources on board. And so, that sends a message. And again, renewables are part of it, but it also, this report says that they're not dispatchable. And during peak hours, they're part of the solution, but renewables are not the entire solution. And again, I think reading through this report, battery storage, there's a better way to finance it. Battery are important, but in this case, the legislation on the governor's desk, there's going to be a new line item on everyone's bill to pay for $7 billion of battery storage. And this report calls for 3 or 4 times that amount of battery storage. So again, the governor's going to sign the energy bill. By all accounts, he supported it. Their team helped negotiate it. But this report clearly sends a message to the governor and General Assembly. They need to go back to the table, need to work on it. We know the bill that the governor's likely to sign is going to create the integrated resource planning and give those decisions to the Commerce Commission, to 5 people. And the General Assembly is going to kind of take itself out of it. But given that their consumers and constituents and businesses are going to face rate hikes, we think that they should pay more attention to this.
What about that Commerce Commission element? Are they the ones that are going to make the decision to go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to repeal the closure date so that we can keep baseload generation in function? When is that decision going to be made? Is it when energy prices go up 300% or 1,000%? Or what are they going to do to make that decision to say, all right, enough's enough. We're reversing that closure date and coal and natural gas can stay open? I'm not sure, but we'll see. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning right here with the Center Square.